After taking over in January, Swindon boss Maurice Malpass has now had a full pre-season with his players, who started off well against Tranmere. John Paul McGovern provided the cross for the scorer Billy Painter after some hesitant Tranmere defending. The Robins punished that hesitancy when Painter turned keeper Peter Brezovan's long kick into the path of Simon Cox, who then revealed a rather interesting goal celebration. Cox and McGovern decided during pre-season training that they would come up with novel ways to celebrate goals during the season. So when McGovern got the third, it was time for some team canoeing. Tranmere did get a consolation after Idrissa Sonko managed to get the better of Yimja Kassal and then picked out the debutant Baz Savage. But for Tranmere, it wasn't really time to celebrate.
League Cup goals are something of a rarity for James Hunt. He got one 6 years ago when he was on target for Oxford in a 1-0 win over Bristol City. And Hunt's latest contribution got Grimsby on the way against Tranmere. Tranmere actually created the better chances, but fell further behind soon after half-time. They had full-back covering, plus their goalkeeper, and yet Ben Chorley still managed to put through his own goal. Tranmere out in round one, just as they were a year ago.
Tranmere secured their first victory of the new campaign with a goal midway through the first half, which was scored by teenager Craig Curran. Hartlepool boss Danny Wilson felt his players were too hesitant at key moments of this match. Leicester's impressive start to the season continued with this victory against Tranmere, and they went in front through Steve Howard. He got to Matt Oakley's cross before Ian Goodison as the Foxes powered the way to victory. Matt Fryatt ended this game with 2 goals and an admission that he doesn't usually practice headers, but both of his goals were from his head. Tranmere boss Ronnie Moore doesn't believe that the scoreline reflects the game, as he thinks his team gave one of the promotion favourites a real run for their money. Their consolation goal came when Chris Greenacre and fellow substitute Chris Shuker combined well to make it 2-1. But Moore won't have been too pleased with the quality of the defending for Leicester's third. Nicky Adams' initial shot was blocked by Ben Chorley. Steve Howard rattled the bar from the partial clearance before Fryatt got his second of the game.
With 2 wins from their opening 4 matches, Northampton made the trip to Tranmere and were gifted an opening goal after Ian Goodison's attempted back pass fell well short and Ryan Gilligan poked the ball past homekeeper Danny Coyne. Having beaten Bolton in the Carling Cup in midweek, it was just the start Stuart Gray would have wanted. But by half-time things had swung back Rovers' way. Baz Savage levelled after Chris Jennings had dispossessed Gilligan to play in the Tranmere striker for his second goal of the season. 3 minutes later, and Ronnie Moore's side went in front for the first time. Anthony Kay's measured finish, bringing him a first goal of the campaign. On the stroke of half-time, Rovers gave themselves a 2-goal cushion. Chris Shuker's corner found the unmarked Anthony Kay, and although keeper Chris Dunn pushed the initial effort onto the bar, he could do little to prevent Craig Curran making it 3-1. Having lost 3 of their opening 4 league and cup games, this was a welcome tonic for Rovers, and they increased the margin of victory in the final minutes. Substitute Chris Greenacre's pass converted by Ian Moore. League One Tranmere had to fight hard for their narrow victory over Accrington at Prenton Park. The game's only goal came 4 minutes into the second half. Chris Curran cut the ball back for Idrissa Sonko, whose shot had enough power to beat replacement keeper Kenny Arthur and put Rovers through.
For example of the ex-player scoring, Tranmere 0, Oldham 1, Ruben Hazel, and you were there, Peter.
Yeah, it was a terrific game. It was a bit niggly. It was, a lot at stake as Tranmere were in 8th and Oldham occupying that second spot. But fantastic game, full of accident and incident. And there, but the ball eventually comes to Neil Eardley here, who's a terrific young prospect. Made his debut against me when I was 16, and a fantastic header by Ruben Hazel, who stayed up for the initial free kick. And we see Danny Coyne dive full length, but can't stop it, bullet header. And at that stage, it was against the run of play. And Andy Hall sent him to the stand for the second season in a row. for a different incident. And there we look, this is the goal that was disallowed, and I thought it was a perfectly good goal. Didn't see an offside, thought they'd give it for the free kick on the goalkeeper. You know, all in all, Oldham deserved it, grew into the game second half, and the thing that I like about Oldham and Carlisle, they can play as well away from home as they can at home.
Playing some good...
Huddersfield fans are still waiting to see their team win at home this season, despite taking the lead against Tranmere, thanks to Liam Dickinson's powerful free kick. It's his second goal in 4 appearances since joining from Derby in the summer. But Rovers fought their way back into the match and picked up their first points on the road. Chris Greenacre's layoff was thundered in by Adrissa Sonko. The way in which the Terriers threw away the points left their boss Stan Turnant livid with his players, especially when on-loan Stoke defender Ryan Shotton bagged the winner to give Tranmere their first away victory in the league since February.
Peterborough had to battle back from 2 goals down as Tranmere looked for back-to-back away wins, and the visitors put themselves in a good position early on. Chris Greenacre's clever header evaded posh keeper Joe Lewis with 7 minutes gone. Ronnie Moore's side increased their lead after half an hour. Some poor Peterborough defending allowed Adrissa Sonko to nod forward, and Greenacre coolly rounded Lewis for his second of the match. But Posh, who'd beaten Bristol Rovers 5-4 in their last home game, pulled the goal back before half-time. Craig McHale-Smith scored a hat-trick in that game. He scored with a simple tap-in from George Boyd's cross. Rovers boss Moore was frustrated after the match, saying his side need to be more ruthless in front of goal. Gabi Zakuani rescued a point for the home team. The 5,700 fans that turned up at Prenton Park on Friday night were treated to a 7-goal thriller. With Colchester boss Geraint Williams departing after last week's defeat by MK Dons, Kit Simons took caretaker charge and saw his side go ahead thanks to a fine David Perkins strike after just 4 minutes. Rovers, who'd lost their last home game against Oldham, were level 8 minutes later. Anthony Kay getting round the back of the used defence to head Baz Savage's cross past keeper Dean Gherkin. But from there on, Simon saw his side take control. Mark Yates' well-placed free kick restored their advantage with a quarter of an hour gone, his 3rd goal of the season. And 5 minutes before half-time, Colchester gave themselves a 2-goal cushion. Clive Platt the beneficiary after a good run from Yates. The U's made it 4-1 2 minutes into the second half. Yates again involved in the build-up. Johnny Jackson firing in first time after Ryan Shotton's tackle had sent the ball into his path. Rovers did rally to ensure a few nervous minutes near the end. A goal-keeping howler from Dean Gherkin as he allowed Andy Taylor's tame free kick to slip through his hands. And 2 minutes later, Ronnie Moore's side made it 4-3. Shotton picking up the ball in his own half before registering his entry for goal of the season.
Tranmere have now joined Carlisle on 13 points after this victory over the out-of-sorts Cumbrians. And the visitors went in front thanks to Ian Moore, who, despite the proximity of Evan Horwood and Richard Keogh, saw his shot go beyond keeper Ben Williams. And Moore also played a role in Tranmere's second. He collected Danny Livesey's clearance and then picked out the on-loan Stoke defender Ryan Shotton. Shotton scored his 3rd in 4 matches and revealed that he was a striker as a youngster, but isn't sure why he's on such a hot streak right now. Carlisle manager John Ward was furious with his players and reckons that he now faces his biggest challenge since taking over last season. Danny Graham made it 2-1.
CREWE felt just a little hard done by after applying much of the pressure at Prenton Park. Former Tranmere striker Calvin Zola had their best chance, but the shot was straight at keeper Danny Coyne. Just 4 minutes left and the prospects of a penalty shootout loomed. Chris Shuker's curling effort caught a wicked deflection off Michael O'Connor to put Ronnie Moore's side into the next round.